shut that off. Timer to start. Okay, I know that it's possible that some folks are going to be filtering in as I'm talking. Welcome to the New Jersey Association for College Admission Counseling virtual college fair. Here in this panel, we have two amazing people that are going to present to you. We are going to kick off our presentations with Amber Bowden from Caldwell University. So to not waste any time, we are going to do that. But real quick, if you do have a question during this 45-minute panel, please use that Q&A button that's at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on how it's presented to you. But again, that Q&A button is the only way that our panelists are going to be able to answer a question during this 45-minute session. So please make sure you hit that Q&A, ask a question. If you'd like, pay attention to the chat. There's going to be some important contact information and other pertinent information put in there as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Amber Bowden.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Let's see. All right. Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Amber. I'm from Caldwell University. So first, I'll start by introducing myself, and I'll tell you a little about what I do. So I'm a senior admissions counselor at Caldwell. My job is to recruit you guys, and admissions counselors ultimately make the decision of whether you'll be admitted into the university or not. I've been in this position for about 3 years. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I actually went to Philadelphia University for undergrad and for graduate school. So for those of you that are first generation, first of all, I want to say congratulations to everybody for making it to this point and making that first step to decide to further your education. And I know it's a lot of pressure. Sometimes you might feel scared, you might feel nervous about it, but we all have your back and we're all rooting you on. And just know that you have an entire support team behind you throughout the process. So I'm going to give you some tips of how you can move forward to further your education as a first generation student. So first, you always want to do your research and understand what type of student you are, because that's going to have a lot to do with where you plan on going to school, because every school is going to be different. So some things that you might want to think about is school size, because there's a big difference between a smaller school and a bigger school. There's a difference between smaller classrooms with about 10 to 12 students in it and bigger classrooms that might have 30, sometimes in lecture halls, 50 to 100 students in it. So you just have to understand what your learning style is and what's going to make you feel comfortable. Also, the type of school that you might want to go to. You might want to go to a public school versus a private school, or maybe a faith-based school. Think about the location of where you want to be. So for instance, I majored in fashion, so I wanted to be at a school that was very close to a big city. You also want to think about the community and the atmosphere. What do you offer at the school? What's the demographics at the school? How is the relationships with your professors and other faculty members? Another important one is making sure that they have your major and that they're very experienced in your major and that there's going to be opportunity after you graduate. Tuition is also one of the biggest factors that is probably going to impact where you decide to go to school. Your next step would be to visit the institution. So you always want to know what it's like where you're going to spend the next 4 years of your life. So wherever you decide to go, make sure you sign up for a campus tour so you can see what that environment might be like, and you get to talk to professors and other faculty members, as well as students that were once in your field. You also want to ask questions. Always ask questions, and no question is a stupid question. Ask as many questions as you can, because remember, there might be someone that has the same question as you, and you have so many people around you to support you. You want to take notes about the different schools that you're viewing, because at the end of this, you want to compare and contrast and see what's going to be best for you. Because remember, it's all about you and what's going to make you feel comfortable. Because once you're happy and you're satisfied in that position, it's going to make your 4 years go by so much easier. After all of that, you'll apply to the institutions that you're interested in. And I always suggest applying to more than one. And you always want to understand the admissions process and also understand financial aid, because there are plenty of ways for you to pay for school. And I'm going to give you some detail on the institution that I work for specifically. So here are some facts about Caldwell, and I will go into detail about this. So we are located in Caldwell, New Jersey, which is in North Jersey. It's a very cool area. It's in the suburbs, beautiful campus. We're not far from New York. We're about 22 miles from New York City, which is great because that's where the job opportunities are going to be. It is faith-based, so it's a Dominican Catholic institution, but you don't have to be Catholic to attend. It's a small campus with about 2,200 students total. So it's a 12-to-1 student to faculty ratio. So in smaller schools, you stand out. You can't hide. Okay, I'm going to put it that way. But that's a good thing. But remember, keep in mind that you have to make sure that this is the right environment for you. You're able to build with your faculty members, and ultimately that's how opportunity presents itself. And Caldwell has also been the affordable choice for a lot of my students. So here's a list of our programs of study, and I highlighted the most popular ones for you. So again, you want to keep in mind what you want to study and do your research on whether it's a great program and a great fit for you. We do offer tons of personalized support. So we have tutoring in our Academic Success Center, and that's going to be for any help that you need on your papers or your homework. We have walk-in hours. You can literally just walk in to get help. That's one of the benefits of a smaller school. And you can make appointments as well. You'll have an academic advisor that'll walk you through all 4 years of the process, plenty of study abroad opportunities for both short-term and long-term. We have the Office of Accessibility, and that's going to be for any type of learning accommodations that you might need. And we have the Career Planning and Development Center, and that's for those jobs and internships. We have jobs that come on campus to interview you for job fairs, and we also prepare you through helping you build your resume and helping you with your interviewing skills. So let's talk about paying for school, because this is very important. So first, you want to make sure you fill out your FAFSA if you qualify to do so. That way you'll know what type of federal aid, state aid, and institutional aid you'll qualify for. So federal, state, and institutional aid, that is called need-based, okay? That means that that's money that you essentially do not have to pay back. The money that you do have to pay back is going to be loans. But whenever you apply to school, I want you to work with your admissions counselor and with the financial aid office so you 100% understand your financial aid package, so you can be as close to debt-free as possible once you leave after your 4 years. We do have scholarship opportunities that are merit-based. We also have some that are based off of the type of school that you went to, so like a Catholic high school scholarship. We also have an art and music scholarship as well. Some students do qualify for federal work study, which means that you can have a job on campus, and it's paid through work study, which is through your FAFSA. And then I always advise you guys to apply for scholarships that are outside of Caldwell. So we do have an EOF program, which is specifically for students who are first generation, and it is income driven as well. So for those of you who go to school in Jersey, of course, if you qualify for EOF, I definitely suggest you taking advantage of this opportunity. Our EOF recruiter, her name is Eden, and EOF is our state funded program through the state of New Jersey, and it offers support academically, financially, and of course, personally. It's like a family on campus. You participate in a 5-week summer program where you'll be taking classes. You'll be living on campus during those 5 weeks. Once you take those classes, you do leave with credits. You're also doing seminars that help you increase your personal skills. We take trips as well. It's a lot of fun, but you're able to start your fall semester with a better understanding of what college is like. It helps you with that transition from high school into college. And as I said, this is specifically for students who are first generation. It is income driven as well. So if you guys are interested in it, we will need your 2018, 2019, and 2020 tax transcripts that can be sent to eof@caldwell.edu. I'll put this all in the chat for you guys. But if you do qualify financially, then you'll interview for it. And if all goes well, then you're a part of the EOF family. So keep that in mind as something that could potentially help you pay for school, because you do qualify for a grant in EOF if you are a part of it. As far as our scholarships, here's our merit-based scholarships. We have the recognition award for any type of community service or leadership experience. And we have a talent scholarship for any talent in music or art. As far as applying for Caldwell, here is the admissions process. And I'm sure this will be the same for a lot of schools. So first, you apply to the school. Once you send in all your documents, and it'll be reviewed by the admissions committee. Once the admissions committee reviews it, then we send out a decision to you. From Caldwell, it is sent directly through the mail. And if you accept the decision, then you'll decide if you want to commit here as a commuter or a resident living on campus. So a strong application is going to include your SATs or ACTs. Take them more than once if you can. You never know how you'll do a second or third time. And we do super score for your SATs, which means that we'll take the highest of each section. Make sure you get recommendations from people that can vouch for you. So just think of who has watched me blossom for the past 4 years. And that can be a school counselor, a teacher. If you play sports, it could be a coach, or if you have a job, it could be your boss or your manager. Your transcript every year is going to be important. So just make sure you keep those grades up, because a lot of the times those grades can help you pay for school. And then your personal statement is everything, because that's how we get to know you. We understand that you're human. Sometimes you go through things. Sometimes you might not be strong in certain subjects, and we 100% understand that. And that is why your personal statement and your recommendation letters are going to be very important to us. So we are rolling admissions. If anyone is a senior, you can apply now, either through Common App or through our website. And here you'll see the average GPA, SAT, and ACT. We are test optional as of now. We'll also need your essay and 2 letters of recommendation. Okay, so I'm going to give you my information here. I'm also going to put it in the chat. But as I said, we are always here for you guys. And I know this is a scary process, might make you nervous, but be very proud of yourself, because you are definitely headed in the right direction. And you have a lot of people around you that can definitely help you. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand it over to Jenna.
All right, thank you, Amber. So I am going to share my screen as well. All right, and there we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Jenny Yent. I'm an Associate Director for Recruitment and Outreach here at Rutgers University in New Brunswick. Now, I know Amber went over quite a bit, so some of the stuff you'll see is kind of similar in my slide deck as well. So I'll kind of go quickly over some of it, but there's some things I definitely want to hit on as well. Please feel free to use that chat box too. If you guys have any questions, let us know. We're all happy to answer questions. I know you have Amber's contact information. You'll have mine as well in a moment. Let us know. We want to make sure we're helping you guys in any way that we can. So we're going to talk about preparing for college, applying to, and paying for college. And we're going to do it real fast. But if there's anything we miss, we can always come back and chat about it. First thing I always like to touch on is just finding the right fit, right? How do you guys know what these different types of colleges are about? There are thousands and thousands of them in the United States. First thing I like to hit on is a little bit of terminology, a little bit of vocab, because this can get a little confusing sometimes when you're researching schools. First thing you're going to see, 2-year versus 4-year, right? In New Jersey, our 2-year schools are county colleges. Some of them also have the word community in there as well, depending on where you're located. Typically, those schools are awarding associate degrees as well as certificates. Some of them may also award bachelor's degrees, typically in conjunction with a 4-year university. four-year schools. That's generally where you're going to find your bachelor's degrees. They may also offer certificates and or associate's degrees. And many of them also offer graduate study, your master's and your doctoral programs as well. So that's generally the breakdown there. Public versus private. Public schools are receiving part of their funding from the state of, or for us, the state of New Jersey, but the state where they're located. So for example, Rutgers is a public institution. In general, they're going to be offering typically very similar programs. So it's not going to affect you so much. Tuition may be a factor in there, but as we'll talk about in just a moment, some of the financial aid that the school may be able to offer you can differ between public and private institutions as well. So it may not necessarily affect how expensive a college is for you in terms of whether they're public or private. College or university, this used to mean that universities offered graduate studies, whereas colleges did not. Not so much the case anymore. You can think of them interchangeably. Not-for-profit versus proprietary. Proprietary means that they are for profit. These are places like Berkeley College, Strayer University as well. Again, they often offer similar programs, but you want to make sure that you understand before you enroll in either what exactly that school is offering. And then lastly, liberal arts versus research focused. Liberal arts tends to have a little bit more of the breadth of study. Research focused universities tend to be a little bit bigger as well, oftentimes public schools there, but not necessarily. In terms of the focus here, really typically dials down to what their curriculum is focusing on. So you can't go wrong with either one, but something to think about as you're looking at different types of schools. I know Amber definitely covered some of these, but just some things to consider as you're looking at different types of schools, because I know you guys are in the thick of it right now, exploring different types of colleges. Certainly the academic programs, the location and campus environment. Rutgers, for example, we're big, and that's not for everybody, and that's okay. What type of campus environment might you feel comfortable in? What's the student body there like? Are the students going home on weekends? Are they sticking around? Is there a lot to do on campus? Is it urban? Is it in the middle of the city? Is it rural? Is it near home? Or is it completely way far away from home? None of these answers are correct. There is no correct answer to any of them, rather. It's going to be what you feel, what feels best for you. Last big thing, do I feel comfortable here? This one's huge. Does it feel like a place that you can spend 4 years, whether you are living on campus or not? Does it feel someplace that could be home for you? And I think that that's a really big thing. A lot of students say that they feel that once they step on campus. So if you have an opportunity to visit campus, that's a really good thing to do. We know that not everybody can do that depending on where they're located. But a really great thing right now is all of the virtual options as well. That is one of the good things that came out of the COVID-19 pandemic. So take advantage of those virtual opportunities if you have the chance to do so. In terms of applying to college, again, I like to start with some vocabulary here and just so you guys kind of know what's going on. So coalition application. Coalition application is where you can complete one application and apply to many schools. It is very similar to the common application in that sense. Coalition is just a little bit different in terms of the fact that member universities have to meet certain eligibility requirements. You don't have to worry about that so much here, but it's good to know that both platforms do exist. You're also going to see institution-specific applications where you can just apply to that one school with the application. If it is a larger university system, like Rutgers, for example, you may be able to apply to more than one. Same thing if you're looking at, say, going to Texas or California. They have large institution-specific applications that cover more than one college. Typically, it does not matter which type of application you use. Whichever one the college offers is totally fine, and they are not going to be judging your application differently depending on which one you choose. So good to note there. Application types and decision plans. This one pops up all the time. What do all these things mean, right? Early decision, that is a binding agreement. So if you apply early decision and you are admitted to that institution, you're essentially telling them, yes, I will come. With early decision, the only way to break an early decision commitment generally is financial aid, because they are asking you to make a commitment to that school before you know what your financial aid package is. So you may not know whether or not it's financially feasible. I will note that early decision is going to the wayside. Fewer schools are offering it nowadays, but where you are most likely to see it are private, highly selective institutions. So just something to keep in mind in terms of how you're choosing your decision plan, specifically when it comes to early decision. Early action is non-binding. So you don't have to go to that school if you're admitted. Really, the benefit there is that you know your admissions decision a little bit sooner. For both early decision and early action, those due dates are typically in November. So they're quite a bit earlier, oftentimes November 1, but most of the time you're going to have that decision by the end of the year, by the end of the calendar year. So it's nice to know a little bit earlier. Regular decision usually falls anywhere from December to, I've seen it as late as February 15th, depends on your institution. And that is your kind of general admissions pool. Typically, there's nothing crazy going on there. Oftentimes, your admissions decisions will come out, depending on when they're due. You'll usually get them between January and March or so. The reason why students may look at early decision and early action in some cases is that oftentimes the admissions rate for early decision and sometimes early action as well tends to be a little bit higher. So that is why those are there. That's why schools have different testing plans, but they do have different implications for your decision and what that ultimately means for you, particularly on the financial aid side. Then lastly, we have rolling admissions and open enrollment. Rolling admissions means that a school is going to be reviewing applications as they receive them. Whereas when you look at early decision and early action and regular decision, they tend to collect all of the applications and then release admissions decisions in one big group. Rolling admissions generally means they're coming in and then the admissions decisions are going out as soon as they have their documents, they can move it along. Many schools that do rolling admissions can give you a decision within 1 to 2 weeks after you submit all of your documents. So definitely a really nice thing and not having to wait for too long there. And then lastly, open enrollment. Open enrollment is typically something you're going to see at our county colleges. That's generally as long as you have met their minimum admissions requirements, anybody can enroll. And typically for county colleges, that's that you have graduated from high school. So those are the different admissions types. Again, if anyone has any questions, I know I'm going really quickly, but let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. Let's chat about what goes into an application. I know it can be really scary because we're asking you guys a lot of questions, right? It's all for a good reason, I promise. And I just want to go over some of the things we ask and why we ask them so that hopefully they're not intimidating. First thing, biographical information. We want to know where you're from. We want to know a little bit about your history. Where this typically pops up, obviously we want to know where our students are coming from, but we also ask for things in this section like social security number and citizenship status. Depending on a student's situation, these can be scary questions, particularly if we have students who are here under an undocumented status or maybe dreamers or DACA recipients. The reason why we ask for social security number for US citizens, it helps us to match up your application with your FAFSA information. So that's generally why we're asking. Same thing for citizenship as well. It helps us to know on Rutgers side, it helps us to determine residency. Do you get in-state tuition or are you marked as an out-of-state resident? So that's why we're asking. I always like to let students know we're not sharing this information with anybody else. This information is staying within the institution and with HESA, the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority. That's the New Jersey financial aid system. But we're not sharing this information with the federal government. It's not going anywhere else. So particularly on that citizenship status, I'd like to make sure that students know that. We will not be sharing that information. Please feel free to share your true status with us. I will have a little bit more on that in just a moment in terms of financial aid as well, particularly for our students who may be undocumented or dreamers or DACA recipients. Family information, we want to know your family background as well. Typically that's just so that we know a little bit more about you. Some schools, particularly, again, the private, highly selective institutions, may also ask you just in terms of legacy status. That's just asking so that they know if your parent or potentially grandparent have gone to that institution. This is another one that's kind of going by the wayside as well. You don't see this quite as often. School and major choices. So some schools may admit you to the institution by a specific major. Others admit you to the school in general. Others may admit you to an academic school. It's always good to keep that in mind and know what the school's policies are, since you may not be able to transfer into a major if you don't apply in as a first-year student. Again, that will vary depending on your institution, but something to take a look at. Educational history, not surprising. We want to know where you went to school. We want to know about your grades. More on that in a moment. Activities and experiences, anything you're doing outside of school. I think a lot of times we think of clubs and sports first, but we care about everything you do. If you are working or if you're taking care of a sibling, all of that stuff is really important. Let us know whatever you're doing. We're going to be counting that in when we review your application. Specifically for things like work and caring for a family member, we know some students aren't able to participate in clubs or sports because they have those other responsibilities. So please do let us know. Anything you guys are participating in is very important. And then lastly, why are you interested in this college? Everybody asks that, probably shouldn't surprise you, but it's good for us to know why students are ultimately looking at us. What goes with your application? Your high school coursework. This is typically either your transcripts or a self-reported academic record. That's an online system where you type in your grades and your courses. I know Rutgers uses that. If you're applying to other large state universities, many of them use that as well, but the most common is a transcript. I think it's about 99% of schools in New Jersey at this point use Naviance. So it's typically pretty easy for your counselors to shoot that over electronically. SAT and ACT scores, many schools went test optional because of the COVID-19 pandemic. For these schools, so you want to take a look at their individual policies, but in general, if a school is telling you they're test optional, they mean that. You'll want to check with them, of course, to make sure that you'll still be eligible for things like scholarships or honors programs. But generally, for those, if you don't want to submit your scores, you don't have to. Many students were not able to actually even sit for a test. So colleges do know that. One thing you'll just want to check is if you don't submit scores, some schools may require you to submit an additional essay, or maybe they'll ask for a graded paper from your English class. So just something to know there. You can check in with the school on that. They should have everything listed on their website. Your essay and personal statement. This is one of my favorite parts. This is one of our best ways to get to know you. Make sure that it's something that you're passionate about, something you really feel, and it should also sound like you. It should be your voice. We don't expect it to sound like your English teacher. We expect it to sound like a high school student. So it's totally okay. It doesn't need to sound like you swallowed a dictionary. No need to worry. But it is something that's definitely something that can kind of push a student over the edge if they're on the border of being admitted or not. Letters of recommendation, some schools accept these, others don't at all. Typically, they'll ask you either for a classroom teacher or a school counselor, and they will let you know which one they want. I always like to make sure that students know it doesn't always have to be a teacher that you got an easy A in their course. I know it's really tempting, but some of the best letters of recommendation come from teachers that have seen you struggle with some material, right? They've seen your grit, they've seen you work through things, and they can really speak to what kind of student you are. So I always like to make sure students know that. Interviews, if you have an opportunity for an interview, take it. Not all schools offer them, but generally they can't hurt you. Oftentimes they're with alums that are living in the area as well. And then lastly, portfolios and auditions. If you are a performing or visual arts student, you'll probably see this. Just one more piece that you'll need on your application. Just quick tips for success: start early, start the process early if at all possible. Keeping track of your applications, including those deadlines and the supplemental items. Many schools have dashboards or online systems where you can check to see that your documents have been received. If you are seeing that something is not received and you know you sent it, let us know. We can help you with that. We can take a look. This happens with SAT scores all the time. Maybe your name is slightly different, or maybe your email address was different. Let us know. Reach out to us. We're happy to help with that. For recommendations and transcript requests, make sure that you submit those early. Your counselors get a lot of requests on this. So make sure that you give them lots of time if possible, and then follow up with them to make sure that they were sent. Be mindful of legal names. This happens all the time with nicknames. Essentially, every school is going to give you a field to enter a preferred name, but in the first name field, you should use your real first name. Be mindful of social security numbers, date of birth as well. And then lastly, check your email. This is the best way that we can communicate with you guys. We promise we're not trying to bug you, but we want to make sure that we are staying in touch with you and letting you know if anything is incomplete. And then lastly, paying for college. So I know we definitely hit on some of these points as well. Types of financial aid: scholarships, free money. Scholarships are amazing. Scholarships generally are merit-based, and the merit could be a wide variety of things. I think the first one we often think of is in terms of our academic record. So many schools will offer merit-based awards based on your GPA or based on your test scores if you're submitting them. Typically, those are going to be offered through the admissions office at the institution that you're applying to. There are also outside scholarships. Lots of other places award scholarships as well, and there are some really good resources for that. The College Board has a website called Big Future where you can do a scholarship search. They'll ask you for some information about yourself, and then they'll match you up with scholarships. Another very common one as well is FastWeb. I believe those are the two biggest at the moment, but there are lots of other ones as well. Your school counselors may also have a list of available outside scholarships too. So every little bit helps in terms of bringing in scholarships towards your financial aid. One thing you will always want to ask when being awarded a scholarship is, what are the renewal requirements? Is this scholarship for 4 years or is it just for 1? And this is a really big deal. You want to make sure you know before you say yes, how much money you're getting, not just this year, but all 4 years. You can even ask, what happens if I stay longer than 4 years? What if it takes me a little longer? What happens to that scholarship? Another thing with renewal, do I need to maintain a certain GPA? That happens quite a bit. Or do I need to stay in a certain major? Sometimes that can happen too. So always good things to ask, and the school should be able to tell you right away exactly what those renewal requirements are. Grants. I know Amber talked about this quite a bit. Free money. Grants are amazing. Grants are need-based. So you can get grants from the federal government, from the state government. You can also get institutional grants as well. So for federal grants, the kind of most common one that I think most people know about is Pell. That's about $6,000 per year if you qualify for the full Pell amount. There's also the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. You'll see it as FSEOG on your financial aid package. That's a little bit smaller as well. So you may see those show up. New Jersey also has some great state grants as well. The first one being New Jersey Tuition Aid Grant, NJACAC. Probably see that. That one does vary depending on the institution that you're going to. The amount varies depending on the tuition of that institution. The highest amount you'll typically see with private colleges is about $13,000 per year. I know here at Rutgers it's about 12. So definitely a lot of really good money there on the grants. New Jersey also has some other wonderful programs as well. Amber mentioned EOF, the Educational Opportunity Fund, which does come with a grant as well. There are also some other programs, things like NJ Stars for students that go to county college first and then move on to a 4-year school. So lots of good things there. And then lastly, institutional, where that's coming from the actual college or university to award. Federal work study, that means that you are working a job on campus to receive money to pay for your school. The money does come directly to you. Most schools do also offer work study positions that are not through the federal work study program. So if you don't qualify, you may still have an opportunity to work on campus. And then lastly, loans have to be paid back with interest. Should always be the last resort. Federal versus private loans. Everyone who completes the FAFSA will be eligible for federal loans. For your freshman and sophomore year, it's $5,500. Junior year, it's $6,500, and senior year, it is $7,500. Federal loans are the best loans to take if you're going to be taking loans. You do not have to, but federal loans are safer. They're backed by the federal government, and they also have lower interest rates. Private loans can get up into the 9 to 12% interest rates, which is really, really quite high. So something to keep in mind there. There are also some other loans through the federal government as well. There are some Parent Plus loans, quite a few different options to explore if you're going in that route. Again, I always like to make sure students know borrowed money that you have to pay back. For the federal loans, the direct loans, you may also see as well, subsidized versus unsubsidized. Subsidized loans are where the government is paying the interest while you are in school. For unsubsidized loans, that interest is accruing as soon as you take out that loan. So something to keep in mind just in terms of how much money you may need to pay back as you're taking out those loans. A lot of financial aid offices will work with you to give you essentially an outline of everything that you may owe, all of that money, particularly in terms of the loans, over 4 years. So if you'd like more information on that, I encourage you to reach out to the financial aid office at the schools you're considering. They can really help in terms of the counseling piece to make sure that you really understand exactly how much you'll owe for your education. And then lastly, how do I apply? So I know I've talked about the FAFSA quite a bit. Free application for federal student aid. First and foremost, free. You do not have to pay to complete the FAFSA. It is open if you are a senior. It opened on October 1st. So if you are a senior, you can complete that, fill that out. They actually have a great tool called the data retrieval tool that actually pulls your family's tax information from the IRS database, which makes it way faster to complete the FAFSA than when I did it eons ago. So it's actually much, much easier than I think you may think. That being said, colleges are a wealth of resources when it comes to completing the FAFSA as well. So please reach out to us. We want to help you guys on this. For the FAFSA, the folks that can complete the FAFSA are US citizens and eligible non-citizens. So if you go to FAFSA.gov, they'll give you a full list of the eligible non-citizen visa statuses. There are things like refugee and asylee. There are a few others. But New Jersey also has an alternative financial aid application as well. So if you are a DREAMA or a DACA recipient in the United States under an undocumented status, if you're living in the state of New Jersey and have attended a New Jersey school for 3 years, you may be eligible for both in-state tuition as well as New Jersey state aid. This is huge. I was just saying New Jersey tag can be up to $13,000 per year. So I like to make sure that all of our students know that you may be eligible for financial aid that you didn't even know about. So if you can't complete the FAFSA, you may want to take a look at this and see if you might be eligible for the New Jersey alternative financial aid application. For both of these, even if you think you may not be eligible for aid, please fill them out anyways. The worst thing they can tell you is no. And the best thing they can say is, here is some free money. So please, please, please apply for financial aid. For New Jersey, so I know I mentioned this earlier, HESA, the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, this manages the New Jersey financial aid. So you're going to need to you'll need to create a profile with HESA as well. I always like to make sure students know this is a second step. So you'll complete either the FAFSA, New Jersey Alternative Financial Aid application is actually through HESA. So I like to make sure students know that there. And then lastly, last one, CSS profile. You are really only going to see this at highly selective private institutions. For the most part, the CSS profile is through the College Board, and they ask for additional information in order to award you financial aid. One thing I will note, this CSS profile does have a fee to complete it. However, they do have fee waivers. So if you were qualifying for any sort of application fee waiver, or if you had an SAT waiver, or if you receive free or reduced price lunch, any of those things, they can waive the CSS profile fee for you. So I like to make sure all students know that because it is a little counterintuitive to need to pay to apply for financial aid. So fee waivers, always good to ask for them there. And then lastly, tips for success. Start the process early. I know I say this all the time. 10/1 FAFSA opened. You can fill it out at any time. You'll want to be sure to include all of the colleges that you're applying to when you're completing the FAFSA. So when you complete it, it's going to give you space for 10 of them. So you can enter 10 in. If you're applying to more than 10 schools, not a problem. What you can do is enter 10 schools. You're going to give it a couple days to process. You'll be able to see in your FAFSA portal that it has been sent. And then you're going to remove the first 10 schools and put any other schools that you want to send it to. So not too crazy. Same thing here, mindful of legal names, nicknames, social security numbers, probably not surprising. Keep an eye on all of those. Check your email frequently for updates. This one is huge, especially for money. We're going to be reaching out to you if there's anything missing. If you are applying through EOF as well, we're going to reach out. We may need tax information. We're not trying to bug you. We don't want to be scary, but most of the time we can't proceed until we have that information. So we'll definitely want to submit those documents promptly, If you have any questions about where to find them, we can help with that too. We can point you in the right direction, whether it's an IRS form, we can let you know exactly what it is you need to submit. And last thing I'll note, while you're looking at paying for college, make sure that you're evaluating schools based on your actual cost of attendance, what it is going to cost you to go to that school, not necessarily sticker price. So I would like to tell you that at Rutgers, because we're a public institution and our tuition is much, much lower than a private school, I wish that I could tell you that we will always be the cheaper option. We won't always be the cheaper option. I know that. There are some private institutions that have wonderful, wonderful scholarships. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to submit your applications, you're going to be admitted to the schools, and they're going to send you financial aid letters. You're going to want to take those and compare them. See what you're actually going to pay, and make sure that you're not comparing just the scholarships. You're not comparing just the tuition. You want to see what exactly you will pay every year to attend. And again, this is where the financial aid office can be a wonderful resource to help you with this. And ultimately you may choose, may decide that the lowest price institution maybe is the best fit. Maybe it's not, and that's okay. Whatever works best for you is fine, but I really like to make sure that students know exactly what they're getting into before they're saying yes on that, and that really comes down to your cost of attendance. So I'm going to flip this over so you have my contact information. I think I left 5 or 6 minutes for questions. This is my direct email address. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. So I will drop it into the chat for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to drop it in the chat here. I'm going to stop sharing as well so that we can answer some questions. What can we tell you guys? I'm sorry I talked for a really long time. What can we tell you? What do you guys want to know? Any burning questions?
It has to come through the Q&A. So if it
Oh,
doesn't
I'm
come through-
sorry. I apologize, guys. Was I telling you to do things that you couldn't do?
they can
I'm sorry.
That's okay. The attendees, whether it's parents or students, they cannot, they can see you, but you obviously can't see or hear them. And the only way they can communicate with you is that Q&A button that's at the bottom or top. So if they have a question, they're welcome to hit that to ask it. Otherwise, they'll just have to contact you privately.
Yeah.
So there is a few more moments left for folks to ask any question they'd like, though. Otherwise, if you have anything else you both would like to plug, I would say now is the time, and then I'll share my screen and let everyone know what they need to do before they leave.
Great. So we did get a question. Do you think SAT scores will not be optional in a couple of years? That's a good question. Amber, do you have any thoughts? I'm happy to jump into.
Yeah, well, I can speak as far as Caldwell. We're test optional for now, but there is a chance that it could change in the future. And I'm going to assume that could be the same situation for other schools as well.
Yeah, I would agree. For Rutgers, we are test optional for fall 2022. We should know in January whether that's going to continue. So stay tuned. I do think overall, just colleges across the United States, I think test optional has increased. There are a lot of schools that said that they went test optional for good. So stay tuned. Always good to check in with the school just to make sure you know what their policy is. Oh, here we go. This is another great one. Is there a deadline for financial aid for each school? And is that different than the application deadline? That's a great question. Most schools do have an application priority, or sorry, a financial aid priority filing deadline is usually what they call it. I know for Rutgers, ours is December 1. So many schools do, and oftentimes it is a little bit different than the application deadline. I'm not sure if Caldwell's is similar.
Yeah, we don't have a specific deadline for financial aid, but I'm just going to say do it as soon as possible. Don't wait on it.
Absolutely. A lot of this aid, particularly if you're looking at need-based aid, tends to be first come, first served. So as long as you can get that in as soon as possible, you usually can get some more money there. That's a good question. I'm gonna also drop, if anyone wants more information about Rutgers, I know I talked mainly about college in general, not necessarily about Rutgers today, but if anyone wants more information, I'm gonna drop a chat or drop a link in the chat. For you to fill out. Oh, nice, and got more. Okay. Got it. That's a great question. Someone said, I heard that when applying for colleges, they check what your parents earn from their jobs and they give you a price for what you pay for college. Not sure if that's true. That's a good question. So what you're going to see on your FAFSA, I believe they changed the wording for this last year. It used to be estimated family contribution, EFC. So first thing I will say, the EFC is not what you're going to pay. That is essentially a number that the colleges are using in terms of determining how much aid that they can give you. But in general, that is kind of what happens. They take a look and see your family's general financial situation, and schools are using that information to determine what they can award you in terms of financial aid. But I promise EFC is not necessarily what you will have to pay.
And keep in mind, I know this is for Caldwell, probably at some other schools, you could be selected for some type of verification. So sometimes schools will ask for further documentation just so they can verify some things related to your family's income.
That's a great point. And if you're an EOF, you may get verification like in May. So keep an eye on that one too. You may get additional EOF verification.
Mm-hmm. Someone said after applying through Common App, do colleges also have us individually apply? For Caldwell, that's not the case, once you apply through Common App, that is your application for us. I don't know if it's different for you, Jenna.
Yeah, we're not on Common App. One thing that you may see is there's the kind of main component of the Common App, and some schools will have a supplemental section, but you would see it right there in Common App. There's no additional steps.
Okay, someone said they're worried about the essay topic. Any suggestions? So my advice to you would be to write about what made you the person that you are today, whether that be positive things. Sometimes it could be negative things that happened to you that made you into this great person that you are. And the good thing is that no one else is going to have that same story because everyone's story is going to be different. So maybe you can start there. Right. Can you use different resources of paying for college? Yeah, so you use as many resources as you can to pay for college. Yes, the more money, trust me, it's going to be the better. It's going to make your parents or whoever your guardian is very, very happy. So whether that be grants, which we said is that free money, or the scholarships, make sure you apply for scholarships outside of the institution that you're applying for. I'm sure the school that you choose will allow you to set up payment plans if you need. Try to get a job on campus if you can. Try to get a job outside of campus if you can. So anything is going to help.
Okay. Our time wrapped up very quickly. An amazing presentation. Thank you so very much. A few things that I'm showing you on my screen now are actually in the chat as well. When you leave, there's a 5-question survey. There are more sessions to sign up with the same place you signed up for this one, and you can find a recording of it on our StriveScan website as well. So with that, thank you so much, Jenna. Thank you so much, Amber. Please take down their contact information, contact these folks. They are the experts. They want to make sure that they can find the right fit for you. So again, thank you, Amber. Thank you, Jenna. Good luck to all the attendees out there, and have a good night.